ahead and start. All right, we're going to call the November 20th, 2019 LaPorte County Redevelopment Commission meeting to order. If everybody please stand for the pledge. And Scott, would you lead us in the pledge? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, Mary Jane.
Randy Novak.
Present.
Joe Core.
Present.
Dr. Cora. Scott Cooley.
Present.
Terry Larson.
Present.
Michael Molenauer. Michael Rosenbaum.
Present.
Rhonda Spence. Mr. President, you have a quorum.
Thank you. I'd like one thing before we approve the agenda. The one thing that I'd like to add, if it's okay with everybody, is we have a claim for LaPorte Herald Argus that came in late for $40.36. That's going to be paid under the 421 TIF number 1 right there. So if
make a motion to include that on the agenda.
Sounds good. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Motion's approved as amended. Public comment. Any public comment? Any public comment? Hearing none. Communications. Mary Jane?
Communications. The Broadband Task Force met recently, and they asked the RDC to share a project list with the task force because they are hoping to create a unified project list for the county with the intent of building in opportunities for fiber so that we can serve and be prepared to serve as many people as possible, particularly in the rural areas where some of the RDC projects occur.
So we were able to provide them with that?
Not yet.
We're going to.
I was going to ask to do that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So is that, we don't need to
I don't think we need a motion or anything.
Right.
Yeah.
No. So we'll make sure we get them then.
Yeah. That would be me. Hold on a sec there.
If everybody could silent their phones at this time if they're not... Oh, never mind. I guess we're too late.
Yeah, sorry about that. Next item is in your packet, you received a copy of the Board of Commissioners resolution sent to you by the attorney to move forward with the purchase of the necessary easement for the rail project in KIP. Also in your packet, we received a note from the Redevelopment Association of Indiana regarding their the notice of assessment of appeals. There was a piece of legislation passed last year that when assessors received appeals of property taxes for parcels in TIF districts, that they were supposed to notify the Redevelopment Commission so the Redevelopment Commission could be aware of that. And the Redevelopment Association of Indiana was just canvassing all our redevelopment commissions to see how many of the redevelopment commissions had received these notices, and not many of them have. So that's one of the efforts that the Redevelopment Association is going to work on, is making assessors aware of this requirement. And then I think all of you saw the Herald Argus newspaper headline. You were on the top fold of the KIP project, so that's included. And then we recently got a last communication from MCR Partners about an economic development prospect, which I believe he's going to talk to you about later. That's all I have.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Mary Jane, the treasurer's report.
The treasurer's report is as follows. The Kingsbury Industrial Park balance, including your claims of today, of November 20th, is $134,738.33. The I-94 421 TIF balance, including your claims of November 20th, is $128,310.55. And the second allocation area, there is no report available for 42194. And then 39 North TIF, the balance is $61,059.72.
Right. What's your pleasure?
Motion to accept as the treasurer's report is read.
We have a motion. Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. Is there any questions on the financial report? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Claims and dockets. First one, we have the KIP TIF for Thomas and Associates, $425.75. MCR Partners for November, professional services in the amount of $3,000. Friedman and Associates, November, legal services in the amount of $1,500, for a total out of that TIF of $4,925.75.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Next one is the 421 number 1 TIF, and we have Thomas and Associates for $425.75. We have MCR Partners, November professional services in the amount of $2,000, and we have Harold Argus in the amount of $40.36 for a total of $2,466.11.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion. Is there a second? We have a motion and a second on the question. Anybody? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Next one is 39 North, MCR Partners, November professional services in the amount of $1,000.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion.
Second.
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 All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you.
Carried.
Old business, Construction Rail Plan Committee update, Matt Reardon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a request in front of this body sent to us from JBC Rail. They're requesting to do improvements on property that we own and control within the park. The purposes of the improvements are to continue to close their real estate and or a development agreement with a major rail carrier. And as such, they're compelled to do some improvements. They asked permission to do it on ours. I needed to ask this body before Attorney Friedman can write a response to make sure that we're covered and don't get sued. So I'm asking for authorization for somebody else to make improvements to our property, and certainly to ensure that the county is covered from a liability standpoint.
I guess on the question, is it possible to have Mr. Thomas, Jim Thomas, our rail expert, at least review or verify what improvements they're going to make, so that I just don't want somebody to come back later and go, why did you let them do that?
That would be a good idea.
You know what I mean? Just so that he's involved and he could say, yeah, this is, it's a good situation. So.
Okay, I can ask him. I know that. Okay, I'll get with him.
I think you got to.
No. I'll get with him tomorrow.
Anyway.
And what I'm going to do, what I'd like permission from the commissioners to do, is approach Mr. Thompson and have him discuss directly with the representatives from JVC Rail, so that they understand what it's for me. I don't know what they're doing, and that's a great.
Other than that, it sounds like a great.
And then make sure that Attorney Friedman is okay with the actual improvements, and we have no.
We'll need to get a normal release, a hold harmless in place, but I think your suggestion's a good one to have Jim take a look at it before we do that.
So what would be the threshold for Jim's approval? Would you like something in writing, or just an email affirmation that he's reviewed what has been discussed as to be improved by JBC Rail at the location, or what would you want to have happen? Because I know that they're in a hurry to spend money, and I don't want to get in the way.
So I think is what this board could do is we can do a motion to approve, subject to Jim Thompson's review, and he can let myself, and he can send us an email or let the body know that, hey, yeah, everything's good. let's go ahead and proceed, and then you guys can go ahead and do it. I mean,
Well, why don't you take Thompson out there right away and then shoot us an email and we'll give you approval over email. Is that okay?
we can give
So,
you
right
approval
away.
pending his.
Subject to
Right, so we can vote officially here.
I'd like to make that a motion,
right.
pending his approval.
So we have a motion and a second to authorize, subject to Jim Thompson's approval of the repairs that JBC
JBC Rail.
wants to make on our property. So, is there any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Either one, calling for repairs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One other item for the commission to consider with regard to rail issues is we have proposals to do appraisals for the easement for the CN right-of-way. One is from Vincent Associates for $2,750, and the other one is from Avail and Associates for $3,000. These are consistent with the requirements of Redevelopment Commission when they're reviewing valuations of property. The attorneys at Barnes & Thornburg have reviewed the proposals. They have no opposition or suggestions for betterment. They were like, those look fine, and they recommended that be okay. I know that I looped in Attorney Friedman into those emails sent out, so he was made aware of it. So I just need your authorization to sign the docs to authorize them to move forward. Both proposals said 4 weeks.
Right, and we're required to get 2 appraisals. Correct. All right. What's your pleasure?
Motion to have Matt move forward.
All right.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any questions?
Let's get the president of the commission as the signatory too, so that way it's binding. It's the RDC that's actually engaged through its president. So perhaps the motion can say authorize the president to sign the engagements, if you would.
Great structure. You
Yeah.
second.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
I'll provide you copies of those, and I think they're going to have to make a quick change. I know that they were made out to LaPorte County Redevelopment Commission. They had different signatory lines, so I'll make sure that you're on there. Okay. And that's all I have for rail. Tony, any other rail information? Covered it. Shaw?
Anything
No.
Anything you want to update on further communications? I know you continue to have good, productive discussions with IEDC on our CSX.
Oh, yes. That's a good way to put it. We continue to have positive discussions with the IEDC, and I'd like to send special thanks to Representative Pressel for his assisting us in moving forward with this project. We're hopeful that there's one remaining outstanding item that we are working through as we speak, and what Representative Pressel is working towards is getting a date where funding would be made available for the CSX portion of this project. I know he was there at the State House on Tuesday. He took that opportunity to contact the IEDC that day, and we had a discussion about it that day as well, and hopefully that will move things forward.
Great. Fantastic.
I think it's fair to say, and Matt's right, Representative Pressel has been very helpful to us, but we are, as far as we can tell, we're there. As you all know, and this commission has been insistent on going after that grant to allow for the connection to the CSX main line, and from what we can tell, we're knocking on the door and just need the final signing of the check and being able to move forward. But the county and the commission has provided all the documentation required by IEDC at this point, so it's in their court.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Are you done with the?
That one's done.
All right. Item B is 421 I-94 TIF update. Matt Reardon.
A couple items. I'd request authorization to attend a meeting with the good people of TransCanada and the developer regarding their issue of the pipeline at and through the interchange in our district, not only on the south side but the north side. The developer requested a meeting be held with that group. The group said they were likely to host a meeting in Houston for the project. I think it's appropriate that the county attend. I don't know what those, not that there's anything I would suspect anything nefarious going on, but if the county would move forward and has been recommended and suggested by this body and others to use TIF money for public improvements, we need to know what the timeline, cost, and effort being made by the pipeline company is, and the cost, the timeline, and effort being made by the developer. So we request the ability to attend the meeting. Shaw, do you have anything?
No, I think Matt's right. We need authority. We've got to be able to eyeball these folks before you make that next step and commit significant dollars. We've got to know just how serious is the pipeline. I think there's authority. It would be either Matt or myself to be able to go down, eyeball these folks, be with them, and determine if that commitment is real or tangible or not. So,
because if I'm not mistaken, looking at this map that we're going to talk about again here in a little while, that pipeline goes through other properties on there.
That's correct.
Yeah. So this is going to be
critical,
ongoing, could possibly be.
Do we need a motion to that? My opinion would be, Shaw, you should go with Matt. The two of you need to go, because we don't need to be wasting our time here in the county talking about a development in Michigan City that may never happen because of this pipeline. And I can tell you, we really want to know that. I think it would. I'd like to make a motion that both Matt and our attorney attend.
So we got a motion for 2 Greyhound bus tickets.
Taking the
and if the Texans are at home, we cut no.
No. So I mean, obviously, you know how much money we got. I mean,
we get it.
Yeah. So
we
keep it
fly
tight
in the back of the plane and hope we've got seatbelts. Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you.
We'll get
And
your
again, I will keep you posted if they change the meeting date or they change where the meeting's at.
Right, there you go.
They suggested it be, I'm like, wherever. I think that we just need to.
Is that where they're out of? Is that their main?
Yes, that was their main.
And they're paying for us to go down, right?
I haven't asked them for that yet. It's a good suggestion.
That'd be nice.
There you go.
We would like you to sponsor us.
Either Vladimir, maybe that, or
Taking a vote.
we're going to run sewers there and say, hey, No,
well, that's a perfect example.
Let me just put it this way: I'll make every attempt to defray all public costs.
There you go. All right.
To make sure that the county's fiduciary responsibility is maintained at the highest level of integrity.
And we would always do that, but I think everybody understands why we have got to eyeball these people to determine just how genuine this commitment is, or if it's not there, we've got to let you know.
So we got a motion.
On a serious note, I mean, all joking aside, this pipeline will stop development on that. On that, done. It'll stop it. The developer will not incur that cost for that.
Well, and it's not only, and if it shuts down that side, it's going to shut down
it shuts
a lot
down
of sides.
the north side towards Michigan City.
North side, south side of that area.
And
shuts
the whole
down
other
our 65 acres on the other side.
Correct,
and by golly, it crosses at the airport in Michigan City on our other properties. So it shuts it all down. So it's important a decision that you, and it's not just us. There's other development areas there that I don't know who owns the property, but this pipeline goes right straight across the center of them.
So we have a motion. Is there a second?
I think we did second. You need to take
He
vote,
made the
right?
motion, and I thought it was.
I made the motion.
Oh, you did?
You didn't
Yeah.
make the motion. He didn't make the motion.
I'm a motion guy.
Do we have we have a motion and a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Is that it on the 421 there, Matt?
I'm going to take this a little bit out of order. No, Mr. Chairman, we had a request from another entity, and I'm going to pull this up so you can see it. And I think we'll get better at using technology here, but it's instructive. I think especially for these purposes. We had a developer come in, and they have done a substantial amount of due diligence. And the potential use for that would be a truck sales and service center. In and of itself, not so exciting, but a nice use for this particular parcel of property. We met with the potential owner, the landowner, and their representatives 2 weeks ago, Tony Rodriguez and myself. And this corner parcel of property is the one we're talking about. It's in our TIF district. And the developer said they have some extraordinary site costs. Well, as you can see, of course they do. There's a giant pond there. However, the developer has invested in wetland mitigation efforts, as well as done geotechnical testing, and has identified an extraordinary cost to mitigate and to build on the site of $1 million. The site is 20 acres, and my broker opinion of value is that property on a highway that's buildable is probably worth $100,000 an acre. At a minimum.
Without water,
Without any.
without the pond. If it's
Right,
still
without,
there.
right. So the owner's price point is $20,000 and the extraordinary cost estimate was $1 million. So $20,000 per acre plus this. So I'm at $120,000 per acre for developable property on interchange. That does not give me heartburn as a broker. I think that's, wow, okay, that's a pretty good deal. The request made of this body is as follows. Would you entertain the use of TIF to help them with the extraordinary cost? And I said to them, I will discuss this with the commission, and I want to just discuss and walk through some options and opportunities. One, I don't think anybody else is going to develop anything. We don't get any property tax from that. So we're at no loss here, okay? Number two, it's a starting, the low end discussion was $5 million of investment. And even if I discount that to $4 million of assessed value, I get to a potential tax generation of $120,000 a year times whatever number of years left in a TIF we would set up for them. So let's just say we did 20. So $2.4 million in property tax on a piece of property. We're never going to get anything. No jobs, no nothing. And I said, well, that's great, except the following. The county has no appetite for, and it would not be my recommendation that they entered into a bond on their own, similar to what is going on for the infrastructure on the other side, right? Different story. Infrastructure bonds, water, sewer, roadway, pretty straightforward redevelopment bonds. This, I told the owner, the developer, I said, the only way that I would recommend that the county consider this is if you, the developer, bought your own bonds, meaning they gave us the $1 million to do that, or they came up with their own money, okay? And they said that they understood that and agreed to it. At least that was my understanding. Did I miss anything with that, Tony?
No, that's correct.
So let me just kind of wrap it back up. One, we have a piece of property we're not going to build anything on. We don't own it. We don't control it. There's a pond on it. We have a national company that would like to buy it, like to develop it. They have 35 jobs. There's no jobs out there today. The approximate amount of personal property in the facility would be somewhere in the neighborhood. They thought of about $1 million. That gets taxed. So there's some inherent benefit to the county to do that. If they bought their own bonds, we have, the government has no risk, with the exception of somewhere footnoted in a bond rating done by a third-party agency. It would say a bond issued by the LaPorte County Redevelopment Commission and Economic Development Commission to a private entity for a private activity bond defaulted because the person who bought the bond didn't build their project. There's no impact on your debt. There's no impact on anything. There's no corporate guarantee. So if the developer doesn't build anything, there's no assessment, there's no tax, there's no repayment. So it's 120% on the back of that particular developer. Now, there's some costs associated with that project that have to do with having a municipal advisor and a bond council come together and put together the requisite documents. This isn't a big, hairy project like the 421 and 94, like a big offering statement. This is a probably more along the lines of a development agreement. I shouldn't minimize it. It'll be a development agreement that spells out all this stuff, but
we're still going to have issuance costs that are borne by the commission, but there doesn't seem to be any downside to potentially doing this. But there are issuance costs to have a financial advisor, an underwriter, and bond counsel involved, even in a private activity bond.
$4 million.
Yeah.
It's going to cost about $80,000.
How much?
About $80,000.
In terms of issuance?
That's a little high, but
Yeah, I think it is high, but you're right. There are issuance.
I think we have to know it's more than that. I just wanted to point out,
Could you come to the microphone, sir? Identify.
Tony Rodriguez, Director of the Community Office of Community and Economic Development. The one thing I wanted to point out that Matt has really laid out very well for you is the framework of the financing. I just wanted to point out the aesthetics, the business owner's attention to detail and green, LEED certified type construction, the nature of the architectural detail they're paying attention to is state of the art. They quite frankly, it would be a statement type building versus a run of the mill average construction. They're trying to make a statement in this being their Midwest corporate headquarters facility, all glass. It really not just a metal building. I just wanted to point out they've really gone above and beyond the call of duty from an architectural standpoint and construction materials. They mentioned it's on several occasions. Correct. Energy efficiency, solar, all of those things being incorporated into their design.
Maintenance facility.
Not a large part.
It's about
not your typical metal building, what you're saying.
So, are you familiar with
Much glass.
you familiar with the facility at Truck City of Gary? You're probably not because you can't really see it, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that.
Okay.
Truck Sales and Service Center, you have 4,000 square foot of office. You have people selling $250,000 trucks to people, and they have a maintenance and repair center. That's what these people do. And like I said, when we were talking about it, well, I look at the site, it won't be developed. It's our understanding there's an offer that's been accepted, and they're trying to move forward and do this. So the one way that I would perhaps, if the commission is interested in making sure that this developer is really prepared to move forward and really would want to purchase their own bonds, perhaps if the developer incurred the soft cost up to a certain point of issuance, and they were allowed to recoup that after they did the bonds. And like I said, I did some rough estimating based on $4 million of assessed value, and I could get to a bond of about $1 million pretty comfortably over a 20-year term. I can get there. You probably can get to a little bit more than that. I think if the commission is interested to allow for some latitude to increase that amount for them to get out of the bond what they can, in conjunction with the findings of the municipal advisor, I think it just, for a company to say they're willing to buy the bond says a lot to me for somebody who does, this on the other side of the table as well. That means they're really want to do the project, and they really understand that without anybody else's intercession, they're not going to do it. And the site has value to them.
Is this something it seems like an awful lot of work has to be done to that site to make it.
Oh, well, site development. It's $100,000 an acre to do mass grading and drainage and all that. That's a lot of money for.
That's a lot of fill.
Is that a lot of money, Joe?
That's going to take a lot of fill.
Right. Well,
depends on how bad you want the view.
It's great visibility at that location.
Correct.
They want.
Correct.
So there's a reason why they would want to hassle with this, because normally you'd go what everybody else has done. That looks like a pond. Well, they found out not only was that not just a pond, that was a pond that was created as a result of the interchange, and therefore was not a natural wetland, but a wetland created by activity by something else. So they went through, and the other thing that also leads me to believe that this is a very serious development effort, that they spent money doing all these things. They identified the wetlands. They have a mitigation plan. They bothered to do the geotechnical. They have a site plan for this. They've seen it. I've seen what the building looks like. And
they're pretty serious about it.
More so than most that come around and talk to us. They spent money, and as I said, I think if they're willing to pick up some soft cost relative to us getting to a point where we're ready to do a bond issue for it, and then they could recoup it back in their bonds in some form or fashion, that would be what I would recommend.
So what would be the next step?
I would reach out to the company tomorrow and say we are in agreement to pursue and work with you to do a private activity bond for the purposes of development at this location within the confines of the statute, and state that in order for us to move forward, we've identified the municipal advisory firm of X and the bond council of Y and local council of Z, and the costs for that are anticipated to be X. You need to be able to pay those up front, and as part of the bond issue, you may be able to recoup those. Whatever is allowable within the statute and the law. I'm not familiar, I'm not a lawyer, but you can recoup some of your cost relative to the cost of issuance. This is my recollection, at least from the government side. I don't know why we would not be able to do that from the private side.
Is it possible for you to go back to them and tell them that we're very interested, this is what it's going to take, and if they say, yeah, we'll do that, and then come back to this body next month? I mean, is that too far down the road, or is it?
I think that would be fine. They were interested in getting a go-ahead of, we would be willing to do that. I mean, they're going to have,
you could qualify any motion and consider it that this is your approval is contingent on them picking up issuance costs, or at least a percentage of issuance costs. So it's something to consider as well.
But my only concern is if it's a portion and we come back, it's like we don't know what dollar amounts we're talking about. And
you want the initial offer to say you cover issuance costs.
How about a motion of support? In other words, we like what we're hearing, that somebody's going to come in and do that and bring us back, work something out, bring us back an offer, and we'll.
I'll make a motion to support that Matt continues his negotiations with this group. Matt, you're smart enough to figure out what we can spend here. You're not going to do anything crazy on us, so I think you should have that right. That's my motion.
Is there a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any questions?
I guess I'm trying to figure out exactly what we're...
It's a motion of support. We're not
motion of
committing to,
support for him to negotiate.
So far, from what we've heard, that we don't have any firm.
So you would come
Right.
to the final proposal.
Correct.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yes.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, I would contact the company and let them know, yes, the county's amenable to using TIF. Yes, the county would allow you to use the TIF for your extraordinary road costs. We need to negotiate and put on paper the use of funds and how that would work. And then between now and they're not. No one's building anything now. It's not going to happen tomorrow. It's
Right.
If everything worked perfectly, maybe we asked them what their timeline was. They said, "Well, we'd like to do this next year." And I said, "Well, that would be great." So they're doing things at the right time. Look, they already have a building designed, which is, that's ahead of the curve. And it's not just a schematic on a piece of paper. It's a drawing. It looks like they were pretty. They've identified cost estimates. I did ask them who the contractor was, gentlemen. Trust me, they didn't tell me. I told them we had a lot of good local contractors, as well as building trades. But that would allow me to go back and get in a writing so they're clear. And Tony, does that get it done?
I think that's the intent of the motion.
All right.
Okay.
And then, and if you bring it back next month, we can make a formal yay, nay, or. But so far it sounds good. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. 39 North Water Tower. Matt?
I know that the consultants are working on it. That's really all I can report. I tried to reach out to Matt Whetstone and to get an update. And I'll make sure that as soon as Matt has something for us, we'll get it over to you. I know the commission or the 39 North group has talked to him.
Yeah, we're because of the fact 39 North, or at least Matt Whetstone's firm, has identified a potential conflict. They also represent the city of Fort Wayne, that is also after the same economic development impact grant funds that exist at I&M. They've recommended another firm, I think it's Kelly Wagner's firm, to be retained by 39 North. So I would expect that motion to consider engaging Kelly Wagner's governmental relations firm will come up at the next 39 North meeting. And so the district's still working on it, and the district knows that there's plenty of support and encouragement by this commission as well.
All right.
Do we have a clear understanding of the impact of that?
Microphone.
I'm sorry. The clear understanding of the impact for the fact that we need this water tower, what its impact is on future development right now up there, what can be built, what can't be built?
Terry, at this time, we understand that there's plenty of sanitary capacity to do whatever. Our challenge is fire suppression. And that essentially has put a stop to any potential future development until that has been satisfied.
Of the water tower. And by whose criteria or requirements is it that we're talking about? Do you know?
So last time
by what code or?
Well, last time we went out and looked at what the fire rating was for this area, and in relation to different kinds of IEDC projects, it's a fail for every one of them we submitted. And I don't remember what it means, the numbers, and I'm sure Randy probably does. But.
So basically the superintendent of the water department in LaPorte is the one that, and this whole issue kind of arose when there was a fire out there, and one of the volunteer fire departments opened up a hydrant to fill it up, and the water department came out there screaming at him, going, "You're going to cause all kinds of, you can't just open a hydrant." So per the water superintendent of LaPorte said that if you open a hydrant, nothing else can run on there. And it's my understanding that they've done that before and dried up Portofino's and some of the other places. So you have that right now it's a dead end main, and then they teed off of that dead end main to go down Johnson Road. So it's a double T dead end. I don't know what you would call it.
So in reality,
right.
If a water tower was built for pressure in reverse, it would also help the city besides that property out there.
I believe there's
So
dual
there needs to be
benefit.
some communication together to
Huge benefit.
see if it can't move forward, because quite honestly, that property, which is very valuable, it's just there.
This issue is stopping any development of some prime land up there that is dead in the water until this water tower.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, it's a twofold thing. We're needing funds first to support not only the financial advisor, governmental relations, and engineering. So it's about $100,000 that we're seeking from the I&M Economic Development Grant Fund, and with that, then going after whether it's something from Economic Development Administration, some other state fund. The legislators have all been informed just how acute this is. We've had strong levels of indication given to us by Senator Bahacek, Representative Pressel, and others. Tell us what we can do to help. But at this point, we've got to get that first bucket of money that'll help with the pre-engineering, the governmental relations, and the financial advisor to put the rest of it together. So that's the first step. It's really two-step, but the legislators certainly are acutely aware of just how bad the need is.
That's good.
Yep. All right, next item is the I-94-35, Highway 35 Economic Development Area Update. Matt Reardon.
Mr. Chairman, you have a map in front of you, and I just have this blown up here. And the commission asked a few months ago, what about 35 and 20 and 94? And I said, well, that seems like a next logical place to try and facilitate more development. And we set about writing and drafting a TIF plan to incorporate this area. As you can see, the Muir Road is the border between the county and Michigan City, and Michigan City's airport's right on the other side. And it's my understanding that there's ongoing efforts to continue to grow Michigan City Airport. So why is this area logical? One, it's at an interchange. Two, it's adjacent to the availability of utilities, and so we're back to that same old discussion. How can we continue to try and foster growth without trying to capitalize on previous expenditures in water and sanitary and storm? There are opportunities for development in this node if you focus on the properties, and this is without regard to anybody coming directly to us and stating, I have a transaction I want you to do. Sometimes TIF districts are set up for an express purpose of this deal. This is more along the lines of identifying a need and saying, what do we have at this interchange? We have a gas station and the little hut place, the Serenity Springs, with 100 and some odd thousand cars going right by it. And so I'm like, well, gee, it seems like there might be an opportunity to increase assessed value, to maybe perhaps attract some activity that the residents of the county can utilize, along with people driving down the road. Okay, so it's where it makes a lot of logical sense from a planning standpoint. It's identified in your unified planning documents as areas of opportunity at these interchanges. Also, areas that abut the cities of Michigan City and LaPorte and Westville are opportunities for growth and development. So. That is the area. I provided you a map. You can see the zoning. It is largely residential. If you can see the arrow, this is a big wetland area. And there's rivers that go through here. And the general rule is let's let that be, and let's let that be natural until such a time as the private sector comes to us and say, we've been able to figure out what to do and how to develop this in a meaningful way. We need to, it is always a positive attribute when the communities are available to say, we have the sewer and water for you to hook up. You know, the 39 North argument in reverse. I have it, plug it in. So also, I think of interest is for transportation opportunities. There's a lot of stuff out here in this area that could lend itself to transportation logistics. You have 20, which is heavy haul route. You have 35, which takes you into the city. You have I-80-94. And don't know at this point if there has been any direct discussions by landowners coming together to do that, but to suggest that there just isn't a plan for any of that activity. There isn't a plan.
So once they extend that airport runway across our property, then that's going to bring some more options
so you're going to
to us
go this
also,
way?
right?
Are you watching this? This way? You go across this?
No,
Other way.
the other way. It's going to go
Other
across 20.
Ah. Okay.
There you go.
20's going under.
Yeah.
Okay.
Goes all the way back to the railroad.
All the way down here.
Yeah.
So now I have different opportunities. So I assume with that increase in the runway, I'm going to make a transition somewhat from fixed FBO, fixed-based operator, to maybe bigger jets and different opportunities. So that's always a good thing. And again, we're working with Michigan City. And that's one of the things that the commission has always talked about, work with our neighbors where we can.
So what do we need to do to make this?
I'm just giving you guys an update and a draft of the planning area. If you'll bear with me, really bear with me. This is unbearable. I'll just stick with this. Hold on a minute. Bear with me.
So, Shaw, do we need a development in order to try to create a TIF area in this area that Matt's working on? What we really do, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, there are various points that you have to have, trigger points. Obviously, we need Carl's, and I think he's prepared some of the documentation. But you're right, Mr. Corr, you've got to have some things on the record authorizing moving forward with a development plan and then authorizing the new TIF area.
Okay.
So this is the table of contents that are in this document, and they cover all the statutory requirements in 36.714 and 36. 36.20.
Matt, could you do us a favor?
Yes.
Could you also maybe get the map that shows all the underground pipelines that go through the area?
We will have that.
And superpose this on this before we make a decision, because
Right. So
if we can't really cross these properties, why?
Right. So we'll have at the end of the document. These are what I just call the front ends of why is this plan? These are things that are in the statute that we're supposed to do. Who do they get recorded with? They go to the recorder. They go to the assessor. DLGF gets it. It's available to the public. All those things go together. You look at substantial benefits of the plan. These are things that happen when you set up redevelopment districts. We want more assessed value. We want more growth. We have multiple landowners. We have adjoining opportunities that are going on. So I wanted to just present this information to the commission, and then what you'll have available at the next meeting or when we come back together will be development plans for certain parcels of property and reuse. So what we've done internally is looked at the development of 350,000 square feet of, I'm just going to call it stuff right now, okay? As I said, that area lends itself to perhaps some distribution, some perhaps some highway commercial, and perhaps some enhanced recreational opportunities. So if you look at Serenity Springs, what could that be? I mean, not that there's anything wrong with Serenity Springs, right? But if you had a different look and feel, or somebody wanted to take that to the next level. So we'll provide on, more of that development issue, or the development standards and building sizes. So you're going to get something that says approximately 350,000 square feet of this different type of product. So distribution center facilities are $75 a square foot times 100,000 feet times 3% equals X amount in new potential increment for this particular project. We have a duty to demonstrate those developments and show them, as do we have to show the utilities. So what we're going to show is development areas, and most of those are going to be close to where the airport is. At least that's our thought. Now, if there's other thoughts the commission has, let me know between now and then. We'll show it. And then the other part is, what is the utility cost? How much does it cost to make sure it's hooked up correctly? So we know these numbers are part of the plan and it gets approved. So that's where we stand with it today. So at the next meeting, we'll have, here's a development plan within the area that shows the type and the recommendations why. It's going to talk about potential change of zoning that have to do more with highway, commercial, and transportation than that. It's going to show in there, and rightfully should, a discussion about current homeowner protections and how that works in conjunction with the creation of this area, because the last thing anybody wants to do is start upsetting a bunch of people while trying to promote growth. So that's also part of the end product. We just are working through the numbers on the development plan, the additional assessed valuation, and then the cost of public improvements that would go with the document. So I just wanted to give you this as the latest draft.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Is there any new business?
I think we covered that under...
We covered it, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, you did.
How about other business? Nothing else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Mr. President, just a reminder, because of the holiday coming up in December, your December meeting is early. It's December 11th.
When is it? December 11th?
You'll
Correct.
send that out to everybody? Is everybody
Yes.
out there?
Yeah.
Great. So our next meeting is December 11th. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Carried.
Thank
Good
you.
job, Mr. President.